Thanks, Grant. Want to welcome everyone here. Appreciate you taking the time to join Keith, Shawn, and myself. We're really excited to be bringing a topic that maybe is more relevant in Detroit and in this moment in time than almost anywhere and at any previous time. Not shockingly, Detroit's history being built around the automobile is built around, as people move from point A to point B, where they park and where the car sits while they're doing their various things, whether that's running errands or attending meetings. But as more and more development has occurred, public space has become limited. And part of this conversation today is what's happening in the industry to alleviate the ongoing demand for space relative to parking so that we can support more public spaces, more community areas, and use the real estate to its highest and best value. To that end, I'd like to introduce my colleagues. I have Keith Hutchings, who is the Director of Municipal Parking for the City of Detroit. Keith, why don't you take a minute or two and introduce yourself to the folks?
Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm very thankful to be a part of this discussion. What's happening in the city of Detroit is really exciting. When you think about where we've come in such a short amount of time, I would say Detroit's one of the hottest cities in the country for urban renewal and innovation in parking and transportation. Really excited to be a part of this conversation, and hope that what we have today is really impactful.
Perfect, thank you. Also joining me, I have Shawn Adams. He's Vice President of Marketing and Sales for AUTOParkit, which is a division of Dasher Lawless. So Shawn, take it away.
Thanks. Yes, it's certainly an exciting time for Detroit. The renovation that continues to happen downtown, and we're thrilled to be part of it. And a part of our contribution is we are the only US-based OEM for fully automated parking systems. We actually started in Los Angeles, where we kind of pioneered the first fully automated parking system for the city of Los Angeles, and in subsequent years have built the largest fully automated parking system in the United States. And with that, we are now bringing this technology, as I like to say, back home, because the base technology was actually kind of harvested from the auto industry to basically apply it to parking vehicles. And so as AUTOParkit has kind of grown and prospered and expanded, we come back to our roots, which is basically we park cars in a fully autonomous fashion. It's fully automated. And when you automate parking, a couple of exciting things happen. First of all, you can increase the density. We'll double the density as compared to a conventional approach. So if you can park 100 vehicles in a given space or volume, we can typically park 200. And as I like to tell everybody, especially the developers, that's just not hype. That's a very accurate kind of rule of thumb as far as just the density. So Kevin, what you were saying is, as you're looking for more public spacing or, more areas for better use than parking, by reducing that footprint or increasing the density in the same footprint, it's a tremendous value to developers. And to do that, we have to make sure that it's very convenient and easy for the users. We like to say that, parking in an automated system is ATM simple. It's just intuitive. It's self-guided. You don't have to take a class or memorize anything. The system kind of walks you through very quickly how to position your car in the load bay, which is a 1.5 car garage. You pull in, you get out of your car, typically it's at grade, and answer a few questions, identify yourself, and then you're gone. And then the system basically finds a spot and parks your car into that stall. So you don't have to remember where you parked, what's the closest spot to either the exit of the stairwell or the elevator. You don't have to worry that your car is being scratched or dinged or, vandalized in any way, that car is perfectly safe because it's all stored in unoccupied rack storage.
Definitely. And I'm really looking forward to sharing, the nuts and bolts of what we're doing, where we're doing it, why we're doing it, and the long-term impact. I just wanted to take one more quick moment as an introduction for myself. I'm Kevin Bopp. I'm Bedrock's Vice President of Parking and Mobility. Presenting as part of Detroit Startup Week is really special. Over the 3+ years that I've had the opportunity to work with Bedrock and with great partners like yourselves and others, we've been really fortunate to bring some startups to the streets of Detroit. So a few years ago, some of you may be familiar with a local startup from Ann Arbor, May Mobility, that we've had the pleasure of partnering with, help launch their platform on public streets for the first time anywhere in the United States. We've also, in the last year and change, brought another startup, this one from the West Coast, in Scoop to Detroit for carpool matching. And although this particular project is not partnered with a startup, I think what's really important is that our organization, the city of Detroit, Keith, with your assistance and some of your colleagues, continue to work really hard with the state's incubator and Planet M and some other groups to ensure that we are taking the time to assess what this ecosystem has to offer for all of us today and into the future. And so it's an incredible opportunity at this moment in time to work with companies that are early in their life cycle to put incredibly innovative technology and ideas to practice on the streets of Detroit. I mean, I can't think of a better place in the world, much less America, to do these things than the Motor City. Just for the audience's awareness, the project itself that we're focused on in the near term before we get to the broader panel topics is at our Free Press building. We are in the midst of renovating that project to be predominantly residential. There'll be some additional space, but the site has an incredible opportunity that initially seemed like a constraint for us. It's a really tall, deep, wide basement where the original Free Press printing presses stood. And that is not a space that's ideal for other uses. I don't know how many of you would want your office in a 30-foot deep basement that had no windows. And I can't imagine my apartment being there. So it made sense for us to consider on-site parking to support people that would be living and working at the building. But the constraints of the site made it such that a parking garage was going to be extremely tight and not offer a great experience. And it was also going to offer a very limited number of spaces. And that, along with, the opportunity to meet companies like Shawn's, led to a project that we couldn't be more excited about. We're preserving the bones, the history, the fabric of the Free Press building and what it's meant to the city, and bringing some of the most modern technology in parking to the Midwest for the very first time. And so to that end, I mean, Shawn, you were already sharing with us what AUTOParkit system is and what the technology behind the system is derived from. So perhaps you can take a few minutes and share with us, what this Jetson system is like and what people can expect the first time they see it and engage with it. And then we'll have an opportunity to show everyone here a brief video.
Yeah, so the AUTOParkit system, as I mentioned, is a fully automated parking system. So basically, it's a machine that parks vehicles automatically, and it's meant to be very intuitive by the user, very safe, and more importantly, it changes the entire user experience from a parking, which a lot of people would consider kind of a hassle, just to kind of find a spot and find the right spot, and then inevitably, you find the spot and then someone's, pulled over and encroached in say a stall. And so all those things go away. You don't have to look for a spot. It's already taken care of for you. So you're dropped off in the load bay. You drop your vehicle off, and then the system automatically parks it for you. When you want
if I was, oh, I'm sorry, Shawn, I was just going to say, so if I was coming to work or getting home from work to my apartment, what would that experience feel like? How is it different than pulling into, say, the Z Deck or our One Detroit garage near the city offices?
So the first difference is the system automatically detects that a vehicle has approached, and we use an RFID technology, so it can automatically detect that a valid user, someone that is registered to be part of the system, has approached basically the entry load bay door. The door automatically opens, so you don't have to hit your garage door opener. You pull in, there's a flat screen TV. It's guiding you, pull forward, stop, pull to the right, pull to the left. And so it guides you fairly simply, just to position the car on top of a pallet, which is just a flat piece of steel. And then once you've positioned your car, you can stop the car, which is fantastic from a environmental standpoint, because now you stop burning fuel and generating emissions for your vehicle. So the car basically is positioned in the load bay, it's turned off, and now you're at grade. The door closes automatically once the car's in, and then you can step out of your vehicle and walk over to a touchscreen and answer a few questions.
Sounds great. So I know in a few minutes we're going to show a video, but Keith, I'm curious, when you first heard about this technology coming to Detroit, given your role and understanding that safety and intelligent parking is one of the domains that is nearest and dearest to your heart, what was your reaction?
I was very excited. Quite frankly, I did not think that this type of technology would arrive in the city of Detroit this early. It's really exciting because it will build upon, I think, what we're doing right now with the new Park Detroit upgrade of services that we're partnering with both Bedrock as well as multiple other private operators to address this whole concept of parking. When you come into any major urban area, it can be a little bit daunting to find adequate parking. And I think we're going to talk about what we're doing a little bit later in this conversation, but I think these creates a synergy between what is being done with this automatic parking system and what we will do with creating a ecosystem that ties everything together. So this will probably end up being the most convenient, user-friendly, environmental-friendly type of experience you could find anywhere. I would say probably within the country, if maybe globally, this is going to be well ahead of what you'll see other offerings across the country.
Perfect. With that, I think it would be really helpful. We've all heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words, so hopefully this video is worth 10 or 12,000 words for us. If Grant, you could share that for everyone, I'd love people to get an idea of what we're talking about visually before we move back. Yes, hear that, hear that? Thanks, Grant. So
Awesome, guys.
obviously we had a couple of buffering issues with the video, although we did get the full song. So, that's pretty exciting. I hope that the audience had an opportunity to glean some of the most relevant items. There's also a current question. So to reiterate, the system is being installed at 321 West Lafayette, which is the old Free Press building where the printing presses were and the operations ran. That project is being renovated and expects to open next year. It's predominantly residential, but there'll be other components, and that's where this parking garage is going. What you had a chance to see in that video is what Shawn has referred to as the load bay, and I'm going to hand this back to you in a minute, Shawn, but sort of to present this from the casual observer's eye, and this is how I felt the first time I saw the technology. For anyone who's ever taken their car for an oil change or to the dealership for service, you're pulling in very much the same way. You're pulling into a bay that feels similar, except it's very nice, it's glassed in, it's high end, and it's private. And so you pull in either using a badge, to Shawn's point earlier, a barcode or an RFID chip that senses your proximity, and then the garage opens based on permissions that we've set. And when that door opens, you pull your car in onto a pallet, much like would happen getting an oil change or for service somewhere else like a tire store. And at that point, when you exit the vehicle, the system takes over and it does a number of things that automatically park your car for you. I'll let Shawn work through the nuts and bolts. The things that I would offer as someone who's bringing this system in partnership with the city and Shawn's company to Detroit that is so incredibly exciting is that we were doing this because we didn't have a lot of space for on-site parking to deliver a great experience to our tenants and residents. But there are so many amazing benefits that the system brings on top of that. Beyond, Shawn has talked about typically you get double the parking density. We're going to get about 5 times what we would have, which is really important. We're using space that otherwise didn't have a clear use to generate a really important ancillary benefit for our tenants and residents in a way that's better than anywhere else in the Midwest. And I can say that totally clear of conscience. Additionally, the system is something that it's very user-friendly in terms of the experience it provides. And so as Shawn lists the benefits, the other ones I would share with you, imagine any day that you're coming to the office or leaving your home. If you're living in an urban environment and you have to walk to the garage, there's the time spent taking elevators or stairs, walking to the vehicle, potentially navigating a line in and out of the garage, depending on the time of day. In this case, the technology allows you to request your car before you're physically there. And so we certainly don't want people requesting their car 20 minutes early, then it sits there waiting for them and it takes up the space. But we have the opportunity for people to show up and the car is already waiting. And that's an incredible amenity in terms of giving you time back. So just taking another couple minutes, Shawn, watching the technology work, are there any points that you feel you'd like to focus on related to the technology itself?
So you mentioned that there's a lot of underlying benefits that come with it. You know, we always start with the doubling of the density, which, look, you know, if you look at the mega trends as our cities become more and more dense, densely populated, land becomes more and more valuable. And historically, traditional parking structures are a very inefficient use of space. An automated system doubles that density. So that's a huge benefit from the very beginning. So now you really talk about, and I've had the pleasure to talk to a lot of developers, you know, and owners like yourself, and really the forward-thinking ones really want to talk about the user experience. How does technology improve the user experience? And a lot of things that our days are busy, we're all multitasking, we're asked to do, you know, more with less. Parking a car is kind of a waste of time, if you will. for people to do that. They really want to drop off their car. So we offer, from a user experience, a valet service without the valet. And certainly in these times, no one gets in your car. No one rummages through, your personal items within it, which is a huge benefit. You literally can leave money, your wallet in the car because no one touches your car. No one has access to it. So it's very safe and secure because it's unoccupied space. So we double your density. We make sure your car is completely safe at all times. We've put in a lot of redundancies and machine safety to make sure that never is there ever going to be an issue with human interaction, with the system. And then, as you mentioned, there is a convenience. And when we first started, we were obsessed with retrieval time. And our retrieval times always start with peak hour demand. And typically, we like to build between 40 and 180 seconds. And it's a retrieval time. And most people are very concerned about that. How fast can I get my car back? But if you look at a conventional approach, national average is on between 8.5 to 12 minutes. As you mentioned, walking to this, to this parking structure, walking the stairs or taking the passenger elevator, getting to your car, backing it up. You're busy, right? You're doing something. The problem is it's still going to take you 8.5 to 12 minutes. I can deliver that vehicle in under 3 minutes. So that gives you a quality time to be that 3 minutes for finishing that last text message or that conversation. And then when you get your car, you can drive directly out of the structure. So the benefit of automation allows two things. One is it allows the user to request their car as they're en route. And what we found was it wasn't retrieval time, although very critical. What we found was wait time was actually a better metric, if you will. So if you call your car while you're taking the passenger elevator or you're en route, on the sidewalk or whatever, coming to the structure, we found is if your car could match you when you arrived and you had what we call zero wait time, that was actually the best user experience. Imagine having your car sitting there waiting for you so that when you arrive, you can just get in the car and leave. And so that's really what we strive for. We're obsessed with, retrieval times because of the efficiency of the machine. But really one of the key metrics that we look at is the wait time, for a user. The system that you saw in the video in Helms Bakery, which was a renovated project, the average wait time, I think, is like a minute and 5 seconds average. So it's pretty impressive that people have that a very short wait time to get into it. The other thing that we're bringing to the city of Detroit, not only this technology, but the other one that I'm actually pretty excited about is electric vehicles.
Yep.
And I know we've talked about it. Look, at the end of the day, I don't decide, Kevin doesn't decide, Keith doesn't decide. The market decides, when electric vehicles become prevalent. But we have to anticipate, as owners, as developers, as innovators, we have to anticipate the market needs and demand. Now, Kevin, you guys have selected to put in 6 EV charging stations, which is well above, even in California, the percentage of EV stalls that have to be in there. What's unique about AUTOParkit is instead of having 6 dedicated stations to 6 vehicles, we can actually swap those cars in and out of those stalls and therefore make much more efficient use of the equipment. And we can also detect exactly when those cars are done. So it doesn't have to be, hey, I have to be in there for 4 hours. It might only take you an hour. It might take you 90 minutes. Maybe it only take you a half hour to charge your system, the vehicle. Now I can move that car out. I can put another car in, all automatically, all without the user being involved whatsoever. And so your overall efficiency and capability are greatly expanded, because I think you have over 20% of the pallets are all EV pallets, within the system, which again is far greater than any current building codes. But again, the market will change and adjust, and you have to be ready for it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you calling that out. It's it's pretty incredible in today's world. If you own an EV, most of the time when your vehicle's charged, you're moving the car either because there's a fee attached to it, or as a good citizen, you want to share that resource. And in this case, the technology can do it for you. And speaking of technology, Keith, I'm really interested from your perspective and the city's perspective, how a system like this fits into Detroit's growing mobility, parking, and transit efforts to create a more cohesive environment.
I appreciate that lead in. This is a perfect example of how technology helps to address issues of environmental impact, congestion, as well as convenience to improve the overall experience of individuals as they travel and park and move within the city of Detroit. I think my perspective on government is government should always be in the position to create an environment where innovation and progress can move forward, and the quality of life and the ability to continue to grow commerce is really a reality that continues to build upon itself. And I think that's what we are in the process of doing, not just doing it from a public standpoint, but also from a private standpoint with companies like Bedrock and Parkride and Lawless Parking and Olympia and Wayne State University. We have a wide consortium of people, including the state of Michigan, that have worked together to make this a reality with the new Park Detroit parking application, which is actually much more than a parking application. What we looked at is in the city of Detroit, we have the challenge of congestion. We have, as we mentioned earlier, the challenge of limited land use and parking not necessarily being the best economic use for land when you're talking about development, and also having the problem of pollution from the use of vehicles. So what we realize is it's important, if we as a city are going to continue to thrive and have this amazing rebirth, that we needed to create a condition that that moved all these individual moving parts, transportation, mobility, parking, into a single system, an ecosystem that tied all these entities together for a more efficient experience and a more efficient movement of people, movement of goods, movement of vehicles. So the new Park Detroit parking application is, for the first time, is going to include all public and private parking operations with the ability to see the availability, the pricing, and to actually pay for all public and private parking opportunities and see it in real time. That is a game changer in the sense that you can now reduce the driving around and idling looking for opportunities to find parking. You also have the opportunity to decide and see firsthand where you might find a discounted parking opportunity, or if you just prefer to park closer, to park, pay a little bit more to park right at an event. And that is a significant change. In the past, that's something you just didn't know. When you got there, you figured out what the pricing was. And there were some individual operators who did have the ability to show what their parking opportunity was, but you never could see all of the parking opportunities, both public and private, on street and off street together. That will change in the next few months. In addition to that, being able to pay for those on a single platform is exciting. And when we use things like surge pricing, or what we call dynamic pricing, we can eliminate the need to have additional parking by using shared parking. By what I mean by that is, in the downtown core, during the day, the downtown core is oversaturated and not very much parking availability. But in the midtown area, there's significantly more parking availability. And if we can shift during the day people to those areas by giving them lower prices with dynamic prices, and then in the evening, that same thing reverses. And if we could pull some of that congestion away from that area, what you'll see is a more efficient use of parking stock, a reduction in the congestion, a reduction in the idling and drive time because you're going directly to those areas. And while it won't be in the very first initial offerings of the app, having things like wayfinding that give you direction. If you're not, one of the things that's difficult when you come into a city, if you don't live and work and play in the city, you don't necessarily know every little route to get around. And whenever there's a construction route that shuts a street down, you're now you're now at the whim of trying to figure out how to get there. But in the future, if we can give you directions that also include those street closures being fed into it, it's a much different reality. Now, the second part of what we're talking about in this new offering is including multimodal trips. So one of the things is sometimes there's plenty of parking, but it's not necessarily in the area where it's feasible to use. But if we could show you visibility of public transit options like the People Mover or the Q line or either Smart or DDOT or Lyft and any other of those opportunities, you then may be able to make a decision to park a little bit further away, reduce the congestion, get a little discount on parking, because now you can see those public-private offerings of transportation and even be able to purchase them all together. Imagine if there's a major event in town and you could.
We'd love that again, right?
Absolutely. We hope that we're there soon. Obviously, we're probably not going to be there in the next month or two, but we hope we're there soon. But imagine if there's a major event and the parking is going to be $60, but some 30 blocks away or 20 blocks away, parking is $10, but it's 30 blocks away. But if you could then see in a multimodal trip plan that if you parked at this garage that's 20 blocks away, you pay $10 and then catch the queue line for another $1.50, and you see that you could actually get there 20 minutes earlier than if you stood in line in congestion and waited to get to that facility. You could save, you save yourself $50. Then you're ready to make that decision, especially if you can pay for all those things. And that then reduces congestion. But we also realized that we wanted this to be an offering that if you're coming to the city of Detroit, you have to use this because it's that impactful. We also are going to include the first of its type event platform that every single significant event, attraction that's happening in the city of Detroit, you can come to the Park Detroit app and you'll see that. Right now, in any major city, and Detroit's not unique to this fact, if you wanted to find out what was happening in the city of Detroit or any other major city, you'd have to go to a half a dozen websites to try to figure out what's happening. But we're going to create the environment that you can go to one place, see what's happening, find out how to park, find out how to get around, and then the last portion of this is to drive economic incentives is create a perks program where when you, for instance, pay for parking, not necessarily going to discount you, but let's say you're paying to park in the Z-Deck, and then we're going to pay for an appetizer at at one of the restaurants that's next to the Z-Deck, or you go to one of those restaurants and you get a perk to park for a half an hour or an hour for free, so that one economic transaction is promoting a second economic transaction. And what we fully believe is when you bring all these things together, it then creates an environment that is a much healthier environment from a pollution standpoint, but it also creates a much better user experience when you come into the city of Detroit, which then means you come more often, you stay longer, and you enjoy it much longer, but much better. But when you talk about bringing all these things together, and then I can imagine going to the Detroit Free Press. I'm driving downtown and I'm looking for a place and I see, I can park at the Detroit Free Press. I'm going to book that, and I get there and I just pull in and it takes my car and it parks it conveniently, and I walk off down to my local pub that I enjoy before I go to the show that's around the corner. And then after that, I'm taking my scooter over to their Free Press, and right as I pull up, I get my car, and within 30 seconds, I'm in my car and going. That's an experience that's unfathomable years ago, and it just creates the environment that makes me want to come into the city of Detroit. So that's what we're excited about, all these synergies, and then the future. It's the foundation of what's going to happen in the future with the information and technology. Imagine when we start bringing in technology or information from manufacturers that now can be used by our public works group to figure out planning and budgeting for roads. So instead of just figuring out where roads are crumbling, taking data from vehicles that we see when they hit potholes, we can tell the deterioration rate, and then save money and be more efficient how we plan on our public works programs. You know, it's mind-boggling. Or knowing that we got 10,000 people are going to take this highway 75 north, or another 50,000 people are going to take 96, or another 30,000 people are going to take 94, because we have an idea where they've come from and we know what time they're leaving. So the type of planning that can go into congestion relief is just unimaginable. So I'm really excited to be a part of what we're doing, and I think in the next few years there'll be no city like the city of Detroit.
Well, first of all, I couldn't agree more. And I think if you take everything that both of you have shared and some of the things that I offered earlier, I think the two key takeaways, other than Detroit first most and perhaps most appropriately is the way I would say it, given our focus and our passion, and holy cow, Keith, you are so passionate. I love working with you. What I would say is maybe a lot of this ties not just to technology, but utility. You know, we're trying to take that building, this incredible architectural design, and preserve it and find a way to create an incredible use for the basement that provides benefits to our residents and tenants. And Shawn, what your technology does and the approach that you take. So in the interest of making sure that we address some of the questions and perhaps those that have been waiting in the wings, if there was a parting comment or takeaway from each of you, have at it. I would say for mine, you know, I'm going to focus on perhaps the utility piece of it, but I'm interested in what you two think is a key takeaway from not just this endeavor, but how it fits into that public-private ecosystem of innovation and change coming to the city. So, Shawn, why don't you go first?
So I guess my takeaway is certainly fully automated parking systems are an emerging technology. In many ways, to the status quo, it's a disruptive technology because we're not going to park the way we used to, because economics and densities require us to really rethink this a bit. And so when you look at providing a better user experience, something better more sustainable for the environment, certainly the transportation industry continues to push forward with electric vehicles, you know, providing the infrastructure for that. Right around the corner is autonomous vehicles. We didn't talk about that, but you know, AUTOParkit is already set up to basically, you know, provide that communication between vehicles and infrastructure. So again, we can be, you know, parking cars fully autonomously as well. So that's right there. The other part, though, kind of to Keith's point, is how do you start to knit a lot of this infrastructure together? And you know, we talked earlier about even I think the simple thing that you're doing at Bedrock at the Free Press building is single credential. You know, so the same credential that you're using to get access to the building, we're using the same credential to basically park your car. So, and, you know, could that, you know, integrate into public transportation or, you know, some other type of mechanism? I think that's really exciting to be able to do that, because again, how does technology improve the user experience? And I think if anything that you take away from this is all of this is capable, and if we can knit it together and improve that, it now allows us to really focus on, you know, improving our the day-to-day life and getting rid of the routine, mundane things that, honestly, finding a parking spot, that's just not one of my top 10 things. I've got a lot of things that I'd rather focus my energy and time on.
Yeah, and I love the tie into what Keith said. Keith, you were talking about, you know, imagine a major event. What I heard you talking about is giving people choice. You know, if someone wants to pay, in your example, $60 to park at the event venue or across the street, that's their choice and prerogative. But if somebody wants to come at it differently, whether because they would prefer to save the dollars or the time not waiting in a long line getting in and out, or perhaps, you know, to use your favorite pub example, maybe their favorite pub is in New Center or Midtown, and it's, you know, in this case, maybe the venue's Hart Plaza instead of one of the arenas. It's conceivable that people are making a choice that suits their needs that day, and you're giving them a platform to make that choice dynamically.
Absolutely. And not just the consumer a choice, but all the operators are getting a choice. We're creating a platform that is agnostic to your technology. If you are at the cutting edge of technology, you can use every bit of the automation that's there. But if you have no technology and you are a simple, hardworking, independent lot owner with very little technology, you still can participate. You still have your same autonomy. But we believe with what the strategy that we're offering, that we will have most people, most operators buy into this, which then allows us to help influence patterns of congestion, patterns of traffic, and support a really amazing time when you come into the city of Detroit. Support being able to not have a hassle of getting yourself situated when you come to work. Being able to improve quality of life. This, along with some of the other tools that we have, when you live in the city of Detroit and you need to come home for the evening. So I am just really excited about where we're at. I think that this will, my philosophy, and when we do things, it should be a benefit for everybody who's a part of it. It should be a win-win for everybody. There should be no losers in the situation, and it should be interdependent so that we all have motivation to keep this great effort that we have started going together. So I think with what's happening here with AUTOPark, with Park Detroit, with the many initiatives that Bedrock is doing, I think Bedrock is also helping to provide example of where of doing things that make sense for Bedrock, but not just Bedrock only, but also seeing the value in doing things that are also globally helpful to the overall community. I think if we all can continue to work in that effort, we will continually be a leader in mobility and parking and economic development around this country.
I really appreciate your perspective and you saying those things. And I think for me, you know, bringing it back to this project specifically, we were really deliberate and intentional about trying to take technology that had already arrived, I'll call it on market, even though it wasn't anywhere in the Midwest and very limited in the US period, and bringing it to a development that benefits in just about every conceivable way from the application of this technology. And beyond the benefits to the people that will be using this day in and day out, the fact that there's no door dings, the fact that it's easier to get to and from their car, all of those things are small gains in someone's life. But in today's world, you know, this is a huge unintended benefit, but it's a private bay for you to get in and out of your car, limiting, you know, contact with other people while we work through COVID-19. It's automatically socially distant the way it's laid out. To Shawn's point earlier, cars aren't encroaching across lines. You're not, if it's the morning rush or the evening rush coming to and from work, the way the cars are retrieved and delivered forces a pacing and a cadence instead of everyone coming and going at once, maintaining a little bit of distancing. And so, you know, there are benefits to this technology that we had never anticipated. But I think, you know, what we're most excited about is bringing the focus of the world to Detroit again for something that's related to mobility and automotive tech. I think that having a first of its kind system in an iconic building couldn't be a better blend of what Detroit is about. And so I want to thank you both. Having said that, Grant, I know we've had some questions both in the Q&A section and chat, and I would encourage others to weigh in, but I'm going to let you take point on navigating how we address the questions that have already been teed up.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. One, thanks for the session and all the information. Your expertise seems, one, super deep. And as Kevin, you kept pointing out, Keith's passion in the area is exciting to see. I know I've been a part of the FIRST robotics community now for about 22 years. And the global championship has moved from Orlando to Atlanta to St. Louis, but it's now hosted in Detroit for 2 years. And all of the global partners and high school students and mentors and elementary and middle school students descending on Detroit is cool to see. And it's cool to see all of that STEM initiative, like you're saying, going back to Detroit. So hopefully that'll be, Keith, one of your big ones. Let's see. So Shahar asked, I know you covered this, but maybe you can talk about it. Where in Detroit is this service?
Yeah, so the system that we've specifically referred to here, this first one, is at the old Free Press building. It's 321 West Lafayette. So it's just a little bit outside of the Campus Martius Cadillac Square area, headed off to the west, and it will be in the basement of that building. You will actually approach the garage from the back alley at grade. So you're coming around the back of the building, and there are two entrance bays. And one of the things that we didn't talk about, but our team and Shawn's team have been really fiercely proud of, is normally when you park anywhere, you have to make a 90-degree turn to pull into that spot. And that's normally not a big deal. The aisles tend to be wide and you have room to do it. Given the size of the building and the width of the alley, we actually took the time to design it so that the approach and exit angles are at 45 degrees, so you're making much softer turns in and out. And for anyone who's ever parked in an older, tighter garage, whether it's in Detroit, Ann Arbor, Chicago, you pick it, I'm guessing some of us, if not all of us, have left paint on various things unintentionally, getting in and out. And so this is going to alleviate that. But it's at the Free Press building. And I can tell you that at least from Bedrock's perspective, we're going to continue exploring this technology for other upcoming developments and potentially in the future systems for retrofit where they make sense. Doesn't always make sense given the current layout of garages and lots, but this will be the first in the Midwest.
That was definitely a follow-up that I might have expanded had you not addressed of, okay, that's the first one. Where's the potential for the other ones? But you guys are already thinking of retrofit of existing buildings in addition to Free Press and new construction. So sounds like Sahara, they're already there. So watch their press releases. We have another question. The Parkit concept is a somewhat futuristic, yet the logo is way too dated. You guys want some help with your logo?
we can always use help. Yeah, it's just it's interesting, but it has served us well. It's always a long hold, and I think certainly for a lot of the entrepreneurs or startup companies that are part of this week, having been part of 3 startups. Look, it's a long road. It's a long haul. Stay with it. Stay passionate. Kind of paraphrase things that I've learned along the way. Vision without execution is just a dream, but execution without passion is failure. So you really have to remain passionate, with your execution.
Boom.
I do love that question, and it's funny. I think that folks that are true marketing press gurus should start, considering calling themselves packaging professionals, because that's what they do. They package and sell our ideas, our concepts, our business. So, maybe Lath and others can help promote that idea.
So on that, I'll take this opportunity to talk about kind of connection points. So These guys, if you go back to, for the attendees, if you want to connect with these guys, you're welcome to go back to the Hay Summit page for this session, and you can connect with them. There's also an entire speakers section on Hay Summit where you can connect with these guys. If you're an attendee and you'd like to share your information, you can do so in the chat. You're welcome to share your email or phone number, whatever you'd like to do. People can connect with you that way. And of course, the panelists, you're welcome to do the same if you'd like people to connect with you. Like Kevin said, if you want to help this project along, reach out to these guys and help. If you bring marketing, if you bring sales, you know, if it's for the greater good of Detroit, yeah, let's jump in. That's why we're doing this together, to celebrate all things Detroit. So reach out and help out. Sahara has another interesting question about the vehicle in advance. So I'm walking to the parking garage and I want to call up my my car. Is there an app where I can call it up so it's ready for me?
Yes, there's a mobile app that you can use. Again, one of the unintended consequences, again, just to the zero touch. But yeah, you'll basically be able to pull up that, and then the app gives you status of the delivery time to your vehicle, to which load bay. In the case of the Free Press building, there's only 2, so it's pretty easy. But we build other systems that have, you know, 7, 8, 10, 32 load bays. So you kind of need to know where it's going to be delivered to. And then there's that kind of that countdown time to let you know when it'll be in the load bay. Very simple to use, you know, for that.
And, you know, to take that answer, Shawn, and tie it into something Keith was talking about, and you even mentioned this, you know, for the Free Press development, we're going to work to tie our systems and platforms to AUTOParkit so that a resident has a full amenity experience in a single resource. And so whether that's locking and unlocking your unit door, calling your car, depending on how sophisticated your apartment is in terms of other technology, making property management requests, haven't figured out yet whether or not it would tie into things like home entertainment or Nest systems, but we're certainly doing everything we can to make things as cohesive an experience as possible. But similarly, longer term, going back to Keith's example, even though the Free Press is a private system, and that's one of the questions that's hanging out there, this particular building is not public parking. This one is just for the residents and tenants. That is not true for almost any asset that Bedrock owns throughout the city. And longer term, as we look at these things, that would not be the case. But we certainly want to make sure that this technology is tied into other resources as part of Park Detroit and some of the platforms Keith referenced. Just because you have a car parked doesn't mean you're taking it every day all the time. And so having the ability to tie the system to public transit systems and other information about goings on is absolutely something we're committed to doing. The same would be true. You could, you know, perhaps my wife and I live in a unit and we have a single car. You still may want from time to time to understand how to engage with other transit systems getting to and from your building. One of you's driving and the other one's using transit to get to and from the office or home. So I think it's great that we have the technology to make these things so integrated.
I think we are also looking to have that same concept where we integrate. We're going to be giving a much needed facelift to technology with the People Mover, but giving it the ability to integrate with other systems, not just with a QR code, with the card, and working with those transportation systems to get them to invest in fare boxes that allow integration across multiple platforms. I think that's the key, to do it from a higher level in terms of systems in between transportation and parking and commercial properties, but also in making those individual properties be able to talk to these various systems. That's the key, is making this a simple one-step process to have access to everything.
And so Grant, I know you can see the same. There's a chat question that's been hanging out there for a while, and then one more in the Q&A. I think in the interest of making sure people have time to grab a drink or hit the restroom, can we make those the last two?
Yeah, I was gonna wrap up here.
I can be quick on one if someone wants to grab the other.
And kind of a thought on, I ran my first marathon in Detroit, and the Free Press Flagstar Marathon was a great experience. Yeah, my first one, my first state, and having a system, especially with the privacy, where when I can take my car into town, wherever I'm staying, I have the privacy to change right then and there, the privacy to change my clothes or to get myself ready. And then I don't have to worry about my car. I don't have to worry about the security of someone else running into it or it getting messed up in a space I don't know, right? In a city I don't live in. That would really put me at ease for be able to let me focus on the thing I'm about to do. So whether it's a marathon that I'm running, a conference I'm going to, or an event I'm putting on, having that as a space I could park in would be fantastic. Otherwise, I usually it's in a parking spot in a parking lot where I don't know that part of town, no matter what city I'm in. So I don't know what's going to happen with it.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Do you mind? I want to make sure Todd asked this question really early on. And so, Shawn, I'm going to tee it up for you to start and I'll wrap it up. But Todd had asked what the difference, plus or minus from a percentage standpoint, is the construction or build cost for a system like this is relative to, I'll call it, traditional on-ground parking.
Yeah, so the quick answer on that is, or the quick rule of thumb is, the system is comparable to above grade traditional ramped parking as you kind of hit that 200 to 225 to 250 stalls. It's approximately the same price. Certainly as you go over that, it's an economy of scale kind of thing. So that's always a very common question that people ask. And if I could just throw in too, because I know this sometimes kind of gets rounded out, is it just for new construction? The obvious answer is no. Obviously, we're doing the renovation for that. So it is for new, it is for renovation. And then I think the other one that always gets thrown out there is, well, it's really just for downtown areas, or, the Detroits, the Chicagos, the New Yorks, the Miamis. That's actually not necessarily the case. I mean, it has its merits in secondary and tertiary markets, wherever there's really density. In fact, we're building a huge system in Temecula, California. And that's that's smaller than Ann Arbor, I would believe, just to kind of give you a relative sense. But they have the same problem. Everybody wants to be in the little downtown area with walking distance to bars, restaurants, shopping, etc. And they're just out of parking. So those are the things that typically kind of come up, other than performance, cost. And then I guess the last one I'll tell you, just because I'll throw it in, is they're actually 40% less to operate, which again sounds a little counterintuitive, just because of the overall price. But no, it's meant to solve a lot of issues for developers.
Absolutely. And to touch on the first point that you made, Todd, the more cars you can fit into the system, the more you've increased opportunity to generate revenue or deliver a benefit to your audience. So it becomes a trade-off. You may spend more in a particular system and you may spend less, but it's also making sure that you're kind of weighing what the key driving factor is. And so to your point, Shawn, if you can get 400 cars where you were going to get 200, whether or not you're spending more, are you delivering a better outcome as a result of the dollars that you are investing?
Right. Or in the same token, if I can reduce your footprint and now you have additional square footage for a better rentable income stream, It's something to think about. Certainly from a pro forma perspective, you'd want to run those numbers.
Well, I want to thank both of you for all of the time, thoughtfulness, passion, and energy. And Grant, thank you for being our host and guide. And last of all, but certainly not least, I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I appreciate the questions and the chat remarks, and hope that we were able to give you some insight on this incredible system that we're really excited to bring to the city next year.